Welcome to How to Get Tech Donations Before Fiscal Year End. My name is Becky Wiegand, and I'm a Webinar Program Manager here at Techsoup Global. I have been with the organization for now 7 years, and am happy to be your host for today's event. Prior to starting here at Techsoup, I worked as a staff person at 3 small nonprofits where I was an accidental techie, as we lovingly call people who don't have professional tech training but often have to make tech decisions. And I was a beneficiary of Techsoup's programs at all 3 of those organizations. So I come from the position of having used our donation programs pretty substantially before joining the staff here, and I'm glad to be your host. Also joining us on the line is Bevan Garrett, an Account Management Specialist here at Techsoup Global. She's one of the people that if you call to talk to somebody, will be helping answer your questions and help you with your account and your order requests and donation requests, and helping resolve any issues with your account during the day. So we're glad to have her on. She's a little bit under the weather today, so she may not actually be speaking much, but she will be on chat on the back end and can help answer your questions throughout. You'll also see assisting with chat Ali Bezdikian, who's an interactive events and video producer here at Techsoup, and she'll be on hand to capture your questions and help you with any tech issues. We are all located here in Techsoup's headquarter office in San Francisco. Go ahead and type into the chat window to let us know where you're joining from today. We often have people from all over the country and sometimes all over the world. Today's content will largely focus on TechSoup.org, our US-based program. So if you are outside of the US, we may have a program in your country that can help you access donations, and we can always help refer you to those other partners. We've got folks weighing in that they're in California, Sacramento, Indiana, Nebraska, Texas, Wisconsin, Maryland, New York, Alabama, Washington, Michigan, San Diego, all over the place, El Paso, Ithaca, New York, San Diego. So glad to have you all joining us today. Appreciate you spending the time. Quick introduction to what we'll be doing today is we'll be introducing Techsoup quickly, and we'll spend some time doing a couple of poll questions because we really want this event to be guided by you, the people who've joined us on the line today, so that we can cover what you most want to answer in today's event. So that could include many of the things that are listed beneath this. This isn't an actual order that will cover things necessarily. Your votes will help determine, but we can talk about programs that reset with fiscal year end. And I just noticed a typo on my slide. Sorry about that. We can talk about getting set up, how to register, what does qualifying mean, what does eligible mean. We can talk about how to actually request donations. We can talk about admin fees, restrictions, limits on donations. We can talk about specific donation programs that you're most interested in, and a host of other things. So you'll have an opportunity to weigh in a couple of polls in just a moment. And throughout the webinar we'll have time for Q&A. So we want to make sure you feel well served during today's event. A look at Techsoup quickly. We are a partner network of 63 partners around the world, and our head office started here in San Francisco and served the United States, but now we're serving organizations in more than 120 countries around the world. You can read more about some of our recent successes by checking out our 2014 Year in Review. It's not clickable on screen, but it will be from the slides that you receive later today. You can see a map of where we're at around the world, serving more than 615,000 NGOs in all of these little dots that you see on this map. Some of those are countries that are served by our donation programs. Some are countries that have NetSquared local meetup groups, and some are where our donor partners have their offices and service. We have served the nonprofit and social good sector to the tune of nearly $5 billion in technology products and grants that have been given out from our donor partners for the social good. So I'm proud to be a Techsoup staff person and a former user of Techsoup services myself. You can find out more about our donation programs on our website that will be showing live in just a couple of minutes. But before we get to that, I really do want to know, what do you most want to cover today? You can select as many options as you'd like, and I'll be watching the votes come in on the back end and taking those down, taking note of them. So feel free to click on any options on your screen. What do you most want to cover today? Getting started, how to register and join if you're not already registered with your organization, Do you want to know about the specific programs that are affected by our June 30th fiscal year end that is a month away? Do you want to talk about admin fees and have an understanding of how those are set and what those are made of? Do you want to go through the process of actually requesting donations? Do you want to learn more about eligibility and restrictions, or some of the learning and community resources we have available on our site, and some through our donor partners too? Are you interested in specific donation programs? If so, go ahead and chat in what programs you're most compelled to learn more about today, and we can try and prioritize those. You want to learn about meetups and access to experts, either online or in your own community. You want to know how to fulfill and download your donations, and also webinars and trainings and other events we can talk about. If there's something not on this list, feel free to go ahead and chat it into us. We are here listening throughout the webinar. I see some people asking about time for Adobe, Adobe Creative Cloud, folks writing about Symantec. Let's see what else is coming in. And we know that you can't see the chat questions coming in or chat comments coming in, but we are reading them. And if anybody shares anything that we think is particularly useful for everyone, we'll also try and share that back out. See, we have people asking about data management systems, membership management, Creative Cloud, Cisco data switches, fairly specific but useful. And let's see, QuickBooks, always a popular topic. Etapestry, webinar software, Skype. All right. Donation management or donor management. Info on the computer donation program, so that would be our refurbished computer initiative, Microsoft Office. This is all really helpful. And if you haven't had a chance to weigh in yet by clicking the radio buttons on your screen, feel free to go ahead and do that now, because I'm going to close that in just a moment. Somebody asked about renewing licenses. So if you already have a license, how to go about renewing. Great. Well, I'm going to go ahead and skip to the results on this first survey. And it looks like 67% of you want to know about those specific donation programs. And let's copy down some of these most popular topics. 60% want to know about processing or the process for requesting. So we can walk through that together for sure. Eligibility and restrictions is tied right up there. Always a popular topic. And I'll get into how that works. Some people are offering in the chat that they're a first-time organization and they want to know how to get started. It looks like only about 15% are interested in getting started and registering and joining, but I can really quickly scan over that for anybody who is brand new, just to show you where to begin. I won't walk through the full process though, since most of the folks on the line are not brand new to us. Great. And then lots of others tied for other sections. So I'll do my best to get through as much as we can today. A couple of other quick poll questions just to help me acclimate with who's actually on the line. We know that we asked this question during registration, but those who register don't always actually show up to attend the event. So we want to know, you who actually are joining us today on the line, who is registered, who is not already, and who is just not sure. And that's okay to be not sure. So give just a moment for everybody to respond to that. We imagine that many of you are already registered because most of our registrations came from folks who signed up through our newsletters. And that's something you often sign up for when you register. I'll give just another few seconds so everybody can respond to this one. And then I have one more question before we move into the live screen sharing portion of today's event. So just showing, great majority, 90% already registered with us. So the person who asked on the back end around first-time registrants, Julian, feel free to ask any questions throughout as a first-time user, because we will, even if we can't spend a lot of time showing it live, we can help answer questions throughout the webinar. That's what Allie and Bevan will be helping to do throughout the process here while I'm speaking. And then one last question for you. We know lots of organizations are registered, but many times they were registered by other staff or former board member or volunteer, and that people who come to these events are often not the folks who've actually requested donations or fulfilled them, received them. So we want to have an understanding of how much experience you have had already using our site. And I think there may be a little bit more of a split here. And we'll give just a few more seconds so everyone can participate, and then I'll jump into live screen sharing. And again, this is just to help me inform me so I know how much time to spend on certain areas of the site. Once I start live screen sharing, I won't actually be able to see the questions that you're chatting in. So that's where Allie and Bevan will be working hard behind the scenes to capture your questions. And I'll be plowing forward to highlight some of these sections that we've identified here in these polls to make sure that we're covering as much as we can in the next 45 minutes. Just to show the results, a much closer split where a little over half of you have requested donations, but 40, almost the other half, either are not sure or haven't done it. So that's where we can spend a fair amount of our time. It was also one of the areas that people identified the process we're actually requesting was the second highest item on the list. So we will for sure spend time on that. Jotting some notes for myself here. All right. I'm going to go ahead and start screen sharing. So it'll take just a moment for my screen to open up and hopefully share on your desktop as well. If things move too quickly or you can't see what I'm doing, feel free to go ahead and chat in, and one of my colleagues can alert me to that and I can slow down. What you should be seeing at the moment is the Techsoup.org website. This is our home page, and again, this is for US-based organizations. If you are joining us from outside the US, I recommend coming up to this top bar where it says Country United States, clicking that drop down, and checking to see if we have a partner serving your country wherever it may be in the world. One other thing I want to highlight on the top navigation bar, if you're not already subscribed to one of our newsletters and you're interested in a product that is not currently in our catalog, the best way to get information about it, if it does become part of our catalog or if it's out of stock and comes back in stock, is to sign up for one of these weekly newsletters. By the Cup is weekly. The new product alert is typically once a month, so you're not getting spammed all the time with these newsletters. And then we also have a newsletter that's specific for our library community that we serve. So if you're joining us from a library today, this is one that's got content that's specifically tailored to library tech topics. So I would recommend signing up for as few or as many of our newsletters as are of interest to you. So we are on TechSoup's homepage. Most of you should be somewhat familiar with it since you are already part of our system, or since around 60% of you, I'm sorry, 90% of you are already registered. For those of you who mentioned not yet being part of our system, the best place to go is to just click this button to join. And I do actually have some slides in the slide deck that had screenshots of how to create your account. You set yourself up with your email address. You enter in your organization's information. You need to have your employer ID number on hand. And that's what you get yourself set up with for your organization. So there are places along the way where if you start the process and realize you don't have everything you need, you can stop and save it for later and come back to it. So don't feel intimidated to get started. It's not that difficult to get set up. And once you're set up, you can start requesting donations right away, even if our staff may take a week or two to get everything qualified to ensure that your organization is actually qualified to receive donations as one of our organization types. And that's all determined by your IRS NTEE code, which is the list of codes that the IRS designates 501c3 nonprofits as, or whether you're in the IMLS database, which is a library list of databases, or it's a database of libraries. So if you fall into those categories, you can also be a foundation. We are also working to try and accommodate organizations that fall under a fiscal partnership or an umbrella of another organization. So we are trying to expand it to social good organizations that may not yet have a 501c3, but that's still in the works. So right now you have to either be 501c3, church, charity, nonprofit, or in the IMLS database to go ahead and register your organization. If you're already registered, the best place to start is to log in. The site looks a little bit different for you if you do log in. So I'm going to go ahead and click that button to log in and sign myself in right now. And you can see right away, just from having logged in, that this upper section has now changed. And it's now reflecting hi, bwiegand at Techsoup.org. And it's telling me which organization I'm representing today. And so I have a bunch of test accounts that I've created in the past. And so this is just one of many of them. If you represent more than one organization and request donations on behalf of more than one, you want to always make sure that this organization that's listed here is the one that you're actually trying to request a donation for. If you want to switch that, you can, but it's always good to make sure that you're logged in and seeing the right organization associated with your account information. So now that I'm logged in, I can see a whole variety of options. I can check my organization's eligibility, which is something you can do without actually having set up an account. You can also just type in your annual budget and answer a couple of other questions about what type of organization you are. And you can see a full list of the donation programs for which you are most likely eligible. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. If I was coming to add a new organization that I wanted to represent, like maybe I'm on the board or I'm a volunteer of another organization in my community, I can always add another one under my same login. So that's just one thing to note, that you don't have to, the organization will have its own profile, but multiple people can help request donations on behalf of a given organization. So I'm going to go ahead to check my eligibility and take this little quiz. I've already entered my information because I'm registered, so it should just populate with a list of, well, it's right now asking me which organization I'm representing because I have so many test accounts in here. So I'm going to select the same one that I was already logged in with, Neighborhood Crime Prevention. And I'm going to click to continue. And now it should populate the screen with programs for which I am most likely eligible to request donations. So there's a whole bunch of programs listed here. A lot of them may not be familiar to you. Some names like Adobe or FileMaker or Intuit, which makes QuickBooks that was mentioned earlier, Microsoft. Those are names that are probably familiar to many of us, Symantec. But all of these other programs that are listed in here, MailShell, Litmos, Huddle, GrantStation, all of these other programs are open to me. So it's a great opportunity to take advantage of all the different donations that are out there for your organization, because some of them may fit something you really need and you just didn't know that that tool did it. So it's a great place to start exploring. So I am looking at, here's what I'm eligible to request. Since people wanted to spend time on specific programs, and the first one that was mentioned was Adobe. It was mentioned by a number of people. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And right now you'll see on our website that our Adobe program is pretty limited because we are imminently expecting Adobe Creative Cloud to become available. And we say sometime in the near future because we know it's coming. And we're very excited that it's coming. But I don't think can actually name dates yet because it's still, until things are actually here, we don't want to tell people that it will be actually here. So know that it's coming soon. If Adobe Creative Cloud is something that's of interest to you and you're not already subscribed to our newsletters, I would definitely recommend doing that because the folks who are subscribed to our newsletters are going to be the first to know once Adobe Creative Cloud becomes available in our program. So, and like I said, we do expect it imminently. So be excited with me about that. I know I'm excited. In the meantime, we do have some Adobe programs that are still available. It's a much more limited catalog than what we've had in the past. We don't have any of the big creative suites because Adobe has been switching things over from installed desktop products to the Creative Cloud. And so while we wait for that, we have just a few options available. So we have Adobe Pro for Windows, or I'm sorry, Acrobat Pro, and Acrobat Pro for Mac. Photoshop Elements 13 and Premiere Elements 13, which these are actually pretty great if you don't need full-fledged Photoshop Professional Creative Suite dealio, which is really, from my experience using it, has tons and tons of bells and whistles, which most people don't need unless they're really a professional photographer or photo editor. So this one we nickname it Pepe. Pepe is a pretty great program if you're looking for a simple consumer level tool for editing your photos and videos. So I'm going to go ahead and say, I think I want that. So I'm going to request that on behalf of my neighborhood crime prevention organization. And so when I go to the product page, I can see, okay, it's an Adobe product. I can confirm the platform. This is available and will work on Windows and Mac. This is a download. So noting the format is important because the majority of the products that are available in Techsoup's catalog as software are now download only. Some of them you can request physical CD or DVD media, but that's usually directly through the company itself. So for Microsoft, for example, one of our more robust programs, if you want to have a disk to install, you would need to request that directly through Microsoft. Now keep in mind, many newer computers don't actually have an optical DVD drive. So before you go off and request that, just make sure what you actually need, because many of these programs can be delivered and supported directly by downloading them. So I can see that it is available. Sometimes you'll see out of stock or some other thing written here. If it does not say available, then it's not available. I can see the admin fee is $22 and I can add it to my cart. Before I do that though, I strongly recommend reading through these super exciting description, system requirements, and the rules and eligibility restrictions. I know reading is fun, right? We all love to read. But it is hard to get through sometimes the specifications and all of the ins and outs of software. But it is really important because there are no takebacks. There are no refunds. We want to make sure that you're getting a product that you can actually use. You want to make sure that it's compatible with your hardware. If you're running legacy programs or running computers that are 7 or 8 or 10 years old, you want to make sure that whatever you're requesting is going to be compatible with what you need. So definitely read through some of this. A lot of this is just showing what the capabilities are. So you want to make sure that it's actually going to work for your needs. And again, this reminder to choose carefully because the admin fees are not refundable. Keep that in mind. Like I said, the system requirements, rules and eligibility. Since rules and eligibility and admin fees were on the top of that list, before I put this in my cart, I'll go ahead and address both of those. So admin fee. Admin fee of $22. I think if you go to the store to buy this, it's probably a couple $100s. I'm not exactly sure what the retail value or standard market rate is for this product at this moment. But if you were to just wander on down to Best Buy and say, I would like to buy this product, it's likely a couple $100s. And that's the case with many of our products. The admin fee is negotiated with those donor partners who are making an agreement with us to say, sure, we want to serve the social good sector. It's part of our corporate social responsibility or our citizenship to contribute to organizations that serve the poor, do good works, what have you in the world. Now, those admin fees are generally between 4 and 10% of the retail value for a donation program. Sometimes we have partners that choose not to donate but choose to discount. So keep that in mind, that the admin fee may be based on a discounted value instead, where that donor partner is still receiving a big portion of that fee. So maybe they're going to give you 50% off of the retail value. Or maybe they're donating it completely and the $22 is 4% of retail or 8% of retail. Well, that $22 admin fee is what helps Techsoup do our work. And we are a nonprofit as well. But it is what's helped us expand to serve 121 countries around the world. And we're excited by the fact that by the end of this fiscal year, by July 1st, we're anticipating that we'll be serving every country in the world with some of our donation programs, which is super exciting, with the exception of a few embargoed ones that we're not allowed to serve. But That's every country in the world. So we are doing what we can to expand these programs, expand the partnerships, grow more donor relationships so we can bring more products into our catalog. All of that takes a lot of negotiating, a lot of conversations, a lot of compelling stories that we collect from you too to say, hey, this is how these product donations made a difference to the people that are being served by these organizations that we serve. So all of that takes a lot of work. And so that $22 is what's paying to provide services like this as well, like this webinar program, and other kinds of trainings and writing and blogging and articles and things that help you make the best decisions about your technology that we try to make available on our site. So that's a bit about admin fees. Now, rules and eligibility. This is part of that conversation that's had with every donor partner in our catalog. We have people that are saying, this is great, we should give it to everybody who does social good. Well, the definition of social good really depends on who you ask. And some of our donor partners have very specific scope. So if you think of it like a grant process where you would apply for a grant, not every foundation, not every corporation is necessarily going to be supporting your cause, right? So just like with any grant process, we have that conversation to say, Adobe for example, we would love it if you would donate this product to everybody and their brother that's a 501c3. And they can come back and say, while that's a nice idea, we would like to actually donate these products to organizations that serve the poor, that provide housing, that run animal shelters, and nobody else. And that's really their decision. And so part of what we're doing at Techsoup all the time is renegotiating those conversations to try and expand as much as we're able to get those programs to be available to a wider sector of social good change makers like you. So you can click on this tab for Rules, Eligibility, and Restrictions. It's always a good idea to do this. Now I already looked at the eligibility page and with the eligibility quiz and saw I'm most likely eligible to request these Adobe donations, so I should be okay. I can also check because sometimes the restrictions, my organization may be eligible, but I may have requested too many products already. I may have hit my limit. So every program also has its own restrictions. So some are set on a calendar year. This one is set on our fiscal year. So for example, between now and the end of this fiscal year, you can request up to 4 products between now and June 30th. And that means as of July 1st, or technically I guess the 4th or 5th, whatever day is a business day, you can then request another 4 products, assuming that the rules aren't changing overnight. So this is where you can really take advantage of the fiscal year by looking at those programs that reset on June 30th, which I'll show you a full list of those in a moment. You can look at those and see, okay, these ones reset. I haven't met my allotment of how much I can request this year. Maybe it would be great to have 2 Adobe Acrobats, one for the Mac, one for the PC, and it would be great to have another copy of this Pepe, as we lovingly call it here internally. And so I could go ahead and request that if I haven't requested in the past year. Maybe I've already requested 1 or 2, and I can take advantage of those last 2 before the end of the month. So this is where it helps to really look at this tab to see those eligibility restrictions, any limits. Some may say you're allowed 1 product per year. Some may be unlimited, that you can request as many as you want. Some may say you can request 1 at a donation, and if you'd like additional, that you get a discounted rate at such and such site, and you do it directly through them. So that's where every partner has a different relationship. So it can be a little complicated to navigate, but it is important to read these things so that you are not missing out on opportunities to get the programs that will help you do your job every day, or help you do it a little better, we hope. You can also see that this has a limit on the organization's budget size. So whatever I registered my organization with must qualify, or else it wouldn't have come back on that quiz as something that I'm eligible to request. So my organization budget needs to be less than $10 million to get this donation. That's great to know. If my budget's more than $10 million and I haven't registered yet, maybe that'll save me some time if this is the only product I want. and I already know, this isn't something I can actually access for this price, so maybe I won't bother with it right now. It also says what types of organizations can get these products. It also mentions religious organizations. So some of you may be joining us from churches. There are a couple of distinctions between churches who run services and masses and specific just church programs, and churches that have a secular program like a soup kitchen or a child care center that may fall under their work. That child care center or that soup kitchen may be eligible for this donation, whereas the church itself that's just doing faith-based work, or the synagogue or the mosque, may not be eligible for this donation. But if you have a secular community service program that you run, it may be eligible. So things like that are outlined in these sections, and it's really important to look through them. And so all of these donation partners have their own criteria. And so for this one, for example, there's a non-discrimination clause. These are important to read as well. When you go through to actually request the donations, which I'll do in just a moment, it'll ask you to agree to the terms. And so this is a good faith honor system here, that once you're in, we are anticipating that we are negotiating on your behalf with these organizations and companies to donate their products, and that you are in good faith answering honestly to these questions, that you're following the law and not discriminating against the people or communities that you serve, that you are actually providing the services that you say you provide, whatever they may be. And so if we find that over time something looks a little scandalous, like I remember a couple years ago we had one person who was requesting donations for like 36 organizations, and all of them were in Nigeria or something. And not that Nigeria doesn't deserve donations by any stretch, but there were some things that came up that were really fishy, where the names of the organizations were all almost identical and things like that. We may catch that and then realize, okay, this is somebody who's just trying to fraudulently use this system to get really inexpensive software that they need. And maybe they're reselling it too, which I think we actually found to be the case, that the person was trying to request things and then reselling it at retail prices on like eBay. So we are trying to keep an eye on things like that, but we aren't going door to door to confirm that every organization in our system of 650,000 nonprofits around the world, we're not going to check every single one of them. That's why we're trusting that you, in good faith, are registering your organization in the right organization type and subtype. If you feel like you've been registered and that you're restricted to some things that you should actually be eligible to request, and maybe your organization, before I worked here, I worked for an organization that did leadership development of young people. But we also worked on women's issues. And depending on the category we picked, it made us eligible for very different things. And both of those topics were things we really equally worked on as part of our mission. And so it was useful to have this eligibility quiz available. It wasn't available at the time when I was working for that organization. So it meant I had to pick up the phone and talk to somebody here at Techsoup and say, here's the deal. I think we should be eligible because the majority of our work is working with young people on leadership development. But I think we're categorized in some other category that may be not serving us well in the donation program. And so I had to provide some evidence that yes, we in fact did do the leadership development so we could be recategorized. And so that's a possibility too if you're legitimately doing work that could fall into more than one organization type or subtype. So keep that in mind. These are not set in stone. Once you're registered, you're always registered that way. If it makes sense, have that conversation. That's why we have great people like Bevan here on the back end to answer questions and help you navigate your account to make sure that you're correctly categorized and accessing the donations that you should be eligible to request. I'm going to go forward and add this to my cart. And I'm just going to request one. Now you can see that my cart has changed to 2 items because I already had something in there before. And so I'm going to wrap it up for now and just assume that I've got all I need for today. Now I can come back and request again tomorrow, or I can come back next week. Some of the programs, like I said, do reset as of fiscal year end. So if those are the case, or if you're coming to the site for something that's a special offer that's only available in a 2-day window, then you need to make sure you're requesting it during that time frame, or that you're requesting it before the fiscal year end reset. But otherwise, many of our programs you can come back and request different times. Some of them you can only have one request a year. Some of them you can request as many times as you want in the course of the year, as long as you don't hit the other limits they may have set. That's where those specifications around eligibility restrictions are really important to read through. So I already had the foresight to assume that I need QuickBooks Premier editions for 3 users. So I can install that in my office. I can let the accountant that we contract who does our 990s access that from a distance. And I can have another one on a different machine or my home office machine. And so I've already requested that in my cart. I haven't actually moved forward to complete my request. So I don't see anything flagged in the cart telling me that I'm not able to request these things. So I'm going to go ahead and proceed to check my restrictions to make sure that there's nothing flagged. And so I'm on step 2 here, and you can see the steps are outlined pretty clearly up at the top. It asks me, do you see flagged items in your cart? Because if you do, that's a big warning sign that something's not going to be fulfilled for whatever reason. Maybe I've met the limit. Maybe I'm not actually eligible. Looks like everything's fine. They're both still available. Quantities are the same. Admin fees. I'm going to proceed with my donation request, just like any other cart you may experience. Now this is where it's a little bit different, where I mentioned that we have agreements for the donations that we've requested. Each donor partner may have its own set of agreements. This one with Adobe says, I understand the admin fee is not refundable and that this cannot be exchanged. I understand this donation must be used internally by my organization for its charitable purposes, and that it cannot be sold, traded, bartered, or auctioned. So I'm reading through these just to make sure I understand that I'm held to these agreements by virtue of receiving these donations. Just like if you were receiving a grant, you're agreeing that with that grant you're not going to be spending it on liquor for yourself or whatever the restrictions may be on a grant. So think of it as an in-kind grant or donation. So reading through these, I have to select and check off any agreement. So if you have 7 products in your cart from 7 different donor partners, you may have to check off 7 different agreements. All of that looks good. So I'm going to proceed with my donation request to now step 4, shipping and delivery. Now we default to saying that shipping is ground, even though both of these products are delivered electronically as downloads. So keep that in mind. It'll say ground no matter what, but you're not going to receive a box in the mail for any of these software donations or online hosted services. The things you will receive a box in the mail for are if you request a donated computer from our refurbished computer initiative. If you have hardware like a switch from Cisco that you're requesting, that you'll get a box. Sometimes those boxes will come from Techsoup. Sometimes the box will come directly from the vendor. So it may come directly from Cisco or whatever the vendor is. So just keep that in mind. One thing to confirm is the email address that is going to receive the fulfillment. This is something that trips a lot of people up. They finish their request and they go to their personal email and say, I didn't receive anything. Where's my donation? How do I get my downloads? Because it's going to be sent to your organization email address on file, which may be an info at, it may be an admin at, it may be a webmaster at, it might be Jane at, it might be board member at, or whatever address you entered when you first set up your organization. Whether or not you set it up, it's going to go to this address that's in this page. So just make sure that you make note of that so that you have somebody checking that email address, even if it's not one that comes to you. Because that's where you're going to get confirmation. That's where you're going to get a fulfillment message. You may get a message from Techsoup. You may get a message from Techsoup and a vendor. You might get a couple of messages from a vendor saying, we've received your request. Here is where you can go to fulfill that and download your license keys. Here's where you can go to install it. So keep an eye out and make sure you've got somebody checking the email address on file. If that's something you need to change, that's where you want to reach out to our client services, and they can help you do that. So my shipping address is whatever I made up here for my test organization. But again, I'm not expecting to receive a box in the mail because both of the products I've requested are software downloads. I'm going to proceed with the donation request. And I'm on step 5 to review payment. And I'm not actually able to enter in fake payment information. We do typically have folks that pay by credit card. If you need to pay by check, you can do so, but you won't actually receive the download confirmation and fulfillment emails until that's been received and cleared. So you won't be able to use it right away. So keep that in mind. If you've just registered your organization today and you request donations today, you might get an email saying, "Thanks for your request. It is being processed." But just know that until your organization has been qualified by our client services team to say that yes, you are in fact an eligible, you're a qualified nonprofit, 501c3, or you're in the IMLS database, those donations won't be fulfilled until that happens. That can take a couple of weeks, just like with any grant fulfillment process. We're not Amazon where we can 2-night ship it to you and have people working 24/7. We're a nonprofit too, so just keep that in mind timing-wise, that if you are registering yourself today, you won't necessarily be able to receive donations today, that it can be a couple-week turnaround. So if you're looking to access donations before the end of the fiscal year, you can certainly register today. You can certainly request donations today, and that will likely be processed within the next couple of weeks. Sometimes quicker, sometimes a little slower depending on the backlog in our system. If you aren't able to provide payment before June 30th, I believe it's a 90-day window from when you request that payment needs to be provided in some form or another, or else your request, I believe, gets canceled. So keep that in mind. So it's asking me for a billing address for a credit card. I'm not going to enter this in because I can't fake it. It would actually request these products if I filled it in. But so that's really the process of requesting. And then it confirms afterwards that I have made that request. There are a couple of places you can go to check on your order history. So if you're logged in, I'm going to go back to just Techsoup.org. Whoops. And pop open, if it decides to open for me here. We have a couple of resources, and I'm going to go down here to the Support tab over here. And you can look at the Product Donation FAQ, which I think is a really great resource to check out, that has all of these handy-dandy tabs over here on the side that help you. You can click out any of these and then read more detail about what they mean. If somebody else has requested donations for your organization in the past and you want to access that account, you can become an authorized agent. And this explains to you how to do that, things like that. So I'm going to go down here to donation status and fulfillment. And this answers a lot of questions about how donations are fulfilled. Like if I didn't receive my fulfillment email and I've checked the info box, what do I do? That's where you can talk to us and we can get you set up. And you can check out the Fulfillment Messages Center. So we have a lot of places where you can check on your donation history. You can see the status of your donation request. It may be pending. You can learn about what those different terms mean. So we have a lot of resources buried in here in this little tabbed section in pretty short little blurbs that can help answer a lot of your questions if you get stuck along the way. So it's a great place to find answers about the product donation program. Bevan, is there anything you want to add just to this process of requesting and eligibility restrictions? Anything that I've mentioned so far that we should cover, maybe some from the questions that have been asked?
It really just to reiterate that if you do have any questions that you weren't able to find about the specific product that you're looking at on the website or on the product page, it really is just a phone call or an email away to get that information that you need. We'd be happy to assist you or point you in the right direction to get you the information that you may need. Becky mentioned several times about the rules, eligibility, and restrictions tab on the different product pages. I cannot stress that enough because it is full of lots of useful information. And if you have any questions about eligibility, or if you have like an older account that was set up maybe in 2005, maybe some of our eligibility options have changed since then. And if that's the case, then definitely give us a call. We'd be happy to review your account because we do want to help you, to get the products that you are needing for your nonprofit organization.
Great, thank you. I took her away from her coughing spells to make her speak to you for a moment. So I'm on the Contact Us page, which again is found under the Support tab. And this is where you can call our customer service directly with this 800 number. Select option 2, and you'll get a hold of somebody like Bevan who can help answer your questions or help you adjust your account or add you or tell you what that email address is that's on file. Can get you set up so you can move forward. And you can also email customer service directly. So another good resource. There's a lot of great stuff under our Support tab that can help you with downloading your Microsoft donations. If you need help with it's called the Volume Licensing Service Center, where Microsoft fulfills all of their donations and provides you with their license keys. If you want suggestions on how to use and optimize your donation, maybe you want to learn something about the products that you just requested and received, there may be articles that help you do that. And so I'm going to go to some of the product pages that people mentioned interest in. And we've already looked at Adobe and we've looked at QuickBooks 3 user license. I'm going to go to, let's see here, we had a request for Etapestry, which is no longer in our system, but it was a donation for a long time. So just to mention that, some of you may have been familiar with getting it through us before, but it's no longer offered as a donation through us at this point. But there are other donor management tools and fundraising tools. Donor Perfect is one of them. Who else asked? Somebody else asked about donor management in general. What other ones here? Just looking at this list really quickly. Nonprofit Easy does fundraising and donation management. Looking through the list quickly here. So there are a few, and the easiest way to actually find these is instead of looking by donor or provider, you can look by category or solution too. So we have solutions that we've identified where we say, okay, if you want to know about antivirus stuff or security stuff, you can see what products are in our catalog about antivirus or security. So you can see the Symantec offerings, you can see MailShell or Bitdefender, whichever programs, and also supporting resources there. So those of you asked about donor and grants management, I'll click on that section and it will take us to a landing page that lets us compare the different donation tools that are in our program that are available. And I can see this drop down, so I can see grants management tools or CRM tools. Like we have NetSuite CRM, we have other donation management tools like Donor Perfect, Little Green Light. So you can see the list of the different tools in our system currently. And like I mentioned before, we are, Etapestry is in here. I think it was just under a different name and I didn't catch it. So you can see Etapestry in here, and that there's a starter package with an initial description. If I don't know what that means, I can click in and I can read the details, and it's likely going to tell me, okay, so for those of you who asked about renewals, some of our donation programs, like I believe Huddle is an example of that, have a perpetual license, meaning you request it once and it's yours forever. Some of them have an annual renewal. Some of them have a renewal where you may get it donated the first year and you may have to pay a fee the second year. Some of them have a system where you may get a donation and you won't need to do anything or change it until you decide to upgrade to whatever the newest version is. For example, with Microsoft, they offer software assurance with all of their donations with a couple of exceptions. They don't do it with server licenses and get genuine products. But with pretty much everything else in the Microsoft donation catalog, which is like hundreds of titles, your Microsoft Office, if you're on Office 2007 and you're thinking about upgrading to Office 2013, you can do that. And then if Microsoft releases Office 2016 or whatever the next version is, anytime within 2 years of you receiving that donation, you can upgrade for free. So that's awesome. So I would definitely recommend paying attention to those things. So for example, with Etapestry, this says it's a 1-year subscription for new subscribers only for access to unlimited numbers of users. So you can have your board or your volunteers or your interns and your staff people all contributing to it. Supports up to 1,000 contract records. So if you need something that supports more, it's worth checking into the pricing to understand what you're actually getting. It will give you one online fundraising form to accept donations. So that means you can't necessarily have 30 different forms that are customized. So keep that in mind when you're looking at these. That's where these details are important. And now down here, the subscription details show at the end of the donation period you may renew your subscription directly from Blackbaud at a discount of 10% off the regular price. So you get the first year for this admin fee of $99. After that, then you're looking at a subscription paid directly to Blackbaud with a discount. So again, that's where reading these restrictions and reading the descriptions are really important. Now over here on the side, what I wanted to mention is we have a whole host of content that helps compare and highlight different programs available. This one compares the ones that are specifically in our program, in our donation program. So if you want to look at how to choose the right donation management software and you're interested in the ones that are available, we have this handy dandy spreadsheet that you can open up separately so you can actually read it, that compares the different products and tells you what they each offer. So it's a great resource. If you're looking at products that are not in our donation system, that's okay too, because we often have a lot of articles that compare different types of products, whether they're part of Techsoup's catalog or not. So if you're looking for a database to manage constituents, we have an article about that that compares a few of them. If you're looking for a tool for petitions and pledges, if you're trying to evaluate a new donor management system, we have a lot of content that's related to that. We also have forum conversations, and you can do a quick search on our site. If you're looking for information on a specific product, you can type in Etapestry, for example, and it should pull up not only the product, but also related articles and how-tos that may mention that product or may evaluate it. It might be a blog post. It might be, so we've got articles and how-tos. We've got webinars that may mention it. We've got community forums where you can read about other people's experiences, and this would be blog posts and community forum posts. And you can also just post directly in our forums and ask people, hey, what's your experience been with this product? And this is where you can get access to experts and other people who've used the products in your community who may have a similar experience or a similar business use in their day-to-day life as your organization needs. So it's a good opportunity to really access crowdsourced responses and feedback on different products. And so the community tab, which I mentioned, some folks asked about webinars. I'll just point to this quickly, where you can see a listing of events that are coming up, and you can see archived webinars like today's. See, this is today's webinar advertised at the top. You can see other upcoming events here. And you can also scroll down and check out our calendar. So if you scroll back to other months, there's a lot more on it too. This is May right now. I was in June, so I was editing things. But you can see local events that are happening. If you want to know about QuickBooks Made Easy and go to a live seminar for a whole day and you're in Atlanta, great. It's right there. You can select that option, check it out, read about the details. Some of them have fees, some are free. Techsoup's webinars are free, so you can feel free to join us for any of those. And you can see the archive of all of our events. So this is just a quick look at the events area, and we try to connect you with experts on topics that we know are of interest to you. And so you can always suggest topics that you'd like to see us cover more of. You can also connect with people on our forums, like I mentioned, and you can go into any of our different forum branches. And if you're looking for databases and donor management, you can select on databases and software, and you can post. You don't only have to read things that other people have written. You can post your own and ask questions. And so you'll see a lot of conversations happening that you can join and share your expertise and experiences, but you can also ask for others. One other thing on experts, I'm going to just click over quickly to NetSquared, which I mentioned earlier when I showed the map. And NetSquared is a network of meetups that happen around the world. And you can select NetSquared locals, and you can find a local NetSquared group. And these are typically happening monthly in cities around the world. So if there's one near you, any of these dots that are near you, you can connect to a NetSquared that's in your area and meet up with experts that have topics that vary every month on using technology for good. They may talk about fundraising tools one month. They may talk about advocacy tools another month. They might talk about hardware and networking switches and tools another time. So it's a great opportunity to meet experts and connect with them and find consultants who can help you make decisions so you don't have to go it alone. You can select your region. It's really easy to find a group. And if you're somebody that has a lot of expertise and is interested in starting a NetSquared in your community, you can also start your own NetSquared if there isn't one nearby, or partner with somebody else to do the same. So we are just about at time. So I'm going to go ahead and pop out of sharing my screen. We didn't get to cover all the products that were asked about, but we did get to cover quite a few of them. Like I mentioned, you can go directly to that donor partner list to select Cisco, or who else was asked about Symantec, and look at their specific offers that they make available. And one other thing I didn't show but I wanted to show quickly here is under this Get Products and Services tab, you can also select to browse by organization type. So if you came here and you are a clear organization type like a religious organization, we have a page that's set up that highlights programs that are specifically available to you. And it highlights content or trainings or materials that are geared toward your type of organization. We also have pages for foundations, for libraries, for all different types of organization types. So that's another way to browse our site. So it looks like most of the questions have been answered on the back end already, but you can feel free to ask more questions in the chat or join us in our forums to ask more questions in our TechSoup help area. I have included a few resources here, and I'll add some more to it in the post-event email that you'll get that includes these slides. There are a few more that I've added to it since then. And you can always reach out to our client services, talk to folks like Bevan who can answer more of your questions. Before we leave today, I would love it if you would chat in one thing that you learned during today's webinar that you will take home and try and use for your organization, whether it's something you're going to implement or something you're going to search or request for yourself and your organization. And I would love it if you would let us know if you will share this with your colleagues and friends who may benefit from this information as well. So feel free to chat into us while I take us forward to upcoming events and webinars. Now there's one mistake on this page because we just had a date change, but we have coming up next week how to get Microsoft software donations. So specifically talking about our Microsoft donation program. So if you're interested in the Microsoft offerings through our site, this is the event to come to next Thursday at 11 Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern. We'll have a soup chat in our forums immediately following that, so you can ask more questions and talk to our experts about the Microsoft program, including specific donations that you may have received. Then we'll have what is Office 365 on the 11th, and then the last one on here which is related to that, what's new with Office 365 has actually been moved to June 25th. And in between there on the 17th we'll be talking about digital advocacy for small and rural libraries. So if you're joining us from a library, definitely check out that event. We run those library-specific webinars once a month, and so we hope you'll join us for those. Thank you all so much. I appreciate all of you asking questions and taking time to participate in the poll questions. Feel free to join us again at TechSoupGlobal.org, TechSoup.org, and on our Facebook and Twitter. We really appreciate you participating today, and we hope that you've gotten some useful information out of it so that you can move forward and request donations, in particular those programs that expire before the end of the fiscal year. So there are many of them coming up. Microsoft is not tied to that, but it's a good thing to be on the lookout for what opportunities you can take between now and June 30th. Thanks so much to all of you and to Bevan and Allie for supporting on the back end. And lastly, I'd like to thank ReadyTalk, who is the provider of this platform and makes it available for us to provide these webinars to you on a weekly basis. If you're interested in webinar tools, somebody did mention that. ReadyTalk is one of them, and it's available in our catalog at TechSoup.org/ReadyTalk. There are a couple of other ones in there as well, so definitely check them out. When you leave the window, please go ahead and take our post-event survey to help us to continue to improve our webinar programming. Thank you all so much. Have a terrific day. Bye-bye.